Hi everyone, it's Steamy Leia
and Captain Phantasma,
and here we are with another episode of Thoroughly Honest Thursday. It's actually our first episode of 2016. Yay! So today we wanted to talk a little bit about the bloopers, missteps, and mistakes of some of our cosplaying experiences. We did get one question this week, so we'll answer that one first before we get into the other topics. First question is from Shaler, who asks, what was the hardest part of your costume to make? And what is one part you really would like to remake or change if you could? I have to say the hardest part of my costume was probably the top when it comes to the steampunk slave Leia, because I've had to change it and make it actually fit, because it originally came with like felt as the bra itself, so I've had to change it at least 2 or 3 times to actually get it to where it is today. So it's been a lot of taking it apart, reworking it, rethinking it, and making it optimized for the last year. So, and I think I've probably got it good, so I really wouldn't change that. As for what I would like to change, probably my slave Leia boots. I just kind of wish that they were a little more comfortable, but I love the way they look. I love that they're one of a kind, I love that they're vintage, and I love that they're cowboy boots. So I'm not going to break them like I broke my last pair of shoes. So that's a little bit of trivia for you. In 2015, I broke 2 pairs of heels as Steamy Leia. So that was pretty interesting.
Alright. Well, as of things that are
hardest
to make, actually, they weren't as hard to make, but the boots were really hard to adjust to.
Yeah.
To walking in those 6-inch heels and not stumbling or falling.
Yeah.
And for things I'd like to replace, the helmet is just, it's thin, it doesn't really fit very well. I'm so tall that you can just see straight up it, and it's cracking. We need a better quality helmet.
Yeah, we could probably get a better quality helmet, one that's a little bit thicker, one that we can still add all of the design elements to, and probably put even a lacquer over.
Yeah.
That way the paint doesn't scratch off would probably be best. Okay, so moving into our cosplay bloopers episode, what is the most frustrating of your costume experiences?
Alright.
Well, I'll start by saying, for me, it was probably Zero Suit Samus. It's a past cosplay that I did, and I really enjoyed it, actually. But I kind of underestimated the difficulty level when I started. I originally wanted to do this costume because I loved the blue jumpsuit. Well, so I went on eBay, and I found a metallic blue Lycra jumpsuit, which looked awesome. It fit great. I was super excited about it. What I didn't think about was that Zero Suit Samus's costume is two-tone. It's a metallic turquoise, and then it's a cobalt. Well, I went looking for cobalt fabric to sew the different patches onto the suit, and I was thinking of color, not of material. So when I found the perfect color of material, I brought it home, and I realized that it wasn't stretchy at all. Now, if anyone in the cosplay world knows anything, you know that stretchy does not go with non-stretchy. Because when you put Lycra on a body, it fits differently than when you have it off of a body or even on a mannequin. So what my mom and I quickly realized with this build is that it had to be sewn on my body. So I got a lot of pins stuck in me while I was sewing that together, and I can definitely say if I were to do it again, I would just not do Samus. My other frustrating experience is actually with white Leia, the New Hope Leia with the white dress that I have. The belt. I have had so many issues with the belt, I can't even start to explain it. But when I began the concept, I wanted to do an obi belt, which, even though it sounds like an Obi-Wan Kenobi belt, it's actually a Japanese-style belt. And it wraps around, it kind of cinches to give a silhouette, hourglass silhouette, but not nearly as exaggerated as a corset. Well, I wanted to change it up because I didn't want it to be as stereotypical as the corset. And so I started sewing this. I had beautiful stitches. It was probably the cleanest piece I've ever made as a seamstress. And I was very excited to try it on after 12 hard hours of work on this thing. I put it on, and it didn't look how it looked in my head, which was very frustrating because I had spent so much time on this, and I really, really wanted it to work. But it just didn't. The brocade fabric didn't look right, the silhouette didn't look right, I was just very upset with it. So I just ended up going online and finding a very inexpensive corset stretchy belt. You kind of see people put these on steampunk hats, kind of around it to give like a steampunk corset look on hats. It actually looks really cool. But I put one of those on, and I started sewing the little, like, metallic looking pieces that are supposed to be as Leia's belt. Sewed it on and said, you know what, it's good enough. And I didn't realize that the elastic on it, you can't wash. You can't put this thing in the washing machine. So it's getting really dingy. And just the whole costume in general gets dirty because it's white. And I'm a messy person. So I eat, or I sit down, or I kneel. And I'm washing this thing more than I ever thought I would. And that's very frustrating because, as I said, I'm a messy person. I get food, I get dirt, I get it on everything. You know, so I don't know why I chose the character with a white costume. But now even the belt, you know, the Velcro is ripping on it. I'm gonna have to find something new. Maybe I'll just break down and do a corset. I don't know. So if you guys have any suggestions on that, please let me know because I'll be reworking the New Hope Leia.
My problem is always you can't hear me in my helmet.
Yeah.
I'll be screaming and you can't hear me at loud events or parades.
Well, and kids want to talk to you.
Yeah, but you can't take your helmet off.
Well, and you can't kneel down to their level.
Sometimes, but it's really hard.
You know, so hearing you is definitely a problem. But we did get a microphone.
So that should be better.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, we have a couple characters in our group, Captain Solo Seekerman as well as Dude Vader, both use microphones. And they said it has done wonders for their costume for communicating with kids, as well as having a voice after the event. Mm-hmm. Because with as much talking and just talking over people, you lose your voice. You really will. Moving on to the next part is the funniest oops moment. Well, for me, I have to say that it started at Star Wars Celebration because I had just gotten a Slave Leia braid hairpiece. Before that, I did not use an extra hairpiece. I just braided my own hair, but it wasn't nearly long enough, so it didn't quite have the same feel. So I found a hairpiece that's a bun, and it clips over braids that I put in my hair, and then I found hair extensions to connect to this bun that'll make the really long braid, and then I braided it. Well, I wasn't used to it. So I had it clipped in my hair, and as you guys, I'm sure, have figured out, I'm a very animated person. So even just watching this podcast, you know that I move my hands a lot, and I move my head, and I wiggle. I just do. So someone had asked me a question at Star Wars Celebration, and Chris, our Dude Vader, had his helmet off. And I just flicked my head to the side, and I whipped Chris across the face with my braid. And I mean, this is like a really thick rope. I mean, and it just smacked right across his face, and it happened a couple times that night. And he actually had to tell me, he's like, stop it, Raina, you know, your hair keeps hitting me in the face. I'm like, oh no, oh, I'm so sorry. Because I wasn't spatially aware of the reach my braid had. The other really funny thing, and this is an ongoing thing, and I always joke about it, is our member, Nathan, he does Captain Solo Seekerman. He has these awesome pneumatic wings, and they're aluminum, and they're powered by a CO2 cartridge that he has on his belt. So he'll turn around and he'll flip them up, and they look really cool. But he'll end up, like, hitting someone, or, you know, he'll rub his wings up against someone and, like, snag it on the costume, or, you know, he's even, like, knocked a kid in the back of the head before. You know, it just, spatial awareness is very difficult in a costume. But there have been many times when he flips his wings up, and it pops beads and cogs off of my Slave Leia top. Constantly! I can't tell you how many times I've had to re-sew beads on because it pops up and there it goes. I just hope that it doesn't, like, pop a gear off and hit a photographer in the eye, because that's going to be really difficult to explain to the paramedics that Steamy Leia's bra attacked him. So, that's pretty funny. What about you? What's your major oops moment?
Well, at the Steam Maker Fest, I was walking in to take off all my armor. So I was walking into the booth and I tripped over a wire and I knocked down half the booth. Well,
oh yeah, because it had a curtain.
A curtain up, and then they had zip tied half of it, I guess, and then it fell, but luckily it got picked up. So we were all
yeah. Well, and didn't actually Treb, which is one of our new members. He does Cog Bane, which is a take on Cad Bane from the Clone Wars TV show. He actually walks on stilts, so he's not always really good at balancing. Especially when he's on his own, so it's really funny that she tripped and and he is falling, and he's the one who came to the rescue. So thank you so much, Trev, for that. That was awesome. Facepalm moments. Those moments where you're sitting there going, oh my god, I can't believe I just said that. That was so stupid. Yikes. For me, it was when I was moderating my first panel at Long Beach Comic Con this year. And I was very nervous because I had never done a moderating. I'd been on panels and talked before, but I hadn't been the one to really keep track of the time and kind of move things along. So it was a big responsibility. I was super terrified. Well, we went to show our presentation, our PowerPoint, and I was nervous. And I can't see the PowerPoint presentation because it's like flush with the stage. So I said, all right, without further ado, here's our presentation to get us started. And someone clicked on the laptop the play button, so I'm listening to the music. I'm like, oh, okay, we're getting started. And the audience starts giving me this look. Okay, and I'm sitting there going, okay, something's wrong. What's going on here? Well, apparently it was one of those things where it was dual screen. So we were seeing the PowerPoint presentation on the laptop, but we actually had to slide that presentation over to the actual screen. So they were watching a blank screen for about 2 minutes before I even noticed, because I'm a derp standing there going, I don't know. So, you know, that made me look really competent, and that was a major oops for me. The other facepalm moment I would have to say is I continuously call Kylo Ren, because I just refer to him as Ren. I know that's not really right because he's Kylo and he's a knight of Ren, but I call him Ren. I also constantly call him Revan. I know it's not the same Sith, not the same guy. I don't even know if Revan is even canon anymore. You guys will have to correct me on that in the comments. But I continuously call him Revan. I don't mean to, and I know the difference between them, but it's just like an alliteration thing, and I just, you know.
With me, it was, we were doing a practice run.
Yeah, for
this
sort of a podcast.
I forgot the name of I forgot the actor's name.
Oh yeah,
Kenobi.
I said Alec Guinness, and she said,
"Who's
oh my
that?
God, who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, don't say that on the podcast!
Terrible
Don't say that on the
moment.
podcast!" Oh, I wanted to smack my head on the table and just go, "I can't believe you just said that!" And when I told her who it was, she goes, "Oh, you know." So it was a really funny moment. That I'm sure if she had done that on camera, there would have been like 1,000 comments going, "Oh my God, how did you not know that?" So thank goodness that wasn't actually on a recorded version of this. So lastly, we'd like to mention our most nerve-wracking moments as cosplayers. And I know yours is more recent. But for me, it was our first ever photo shoot as Star Wars Steampunk Universe back in March?
Of last year.
Yeah, of last year. So we're not quite a year old yet, guys, as a group. But Nathan had called us up to do a photo shoot, and he said, hey, make it a Star Wars, make it a steampunk character, mesh them together, and that's what we're going to do. Well, so we're at this train museum, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together that we would actually be climbing on the trains, which, just so you guys know, we weren't supposed to be doing. We actually had management come and say, get off the 100-year-old trains, because we're a bunch of children, apparently, and we have to be told that. But these trains were old, obviously. We were even on this, like, flatbed transport cart, and it was covered in old wood. Literally, if you took the wrong step, you'd fall straight through. Nathan remembers that really well, I'm sure. You know, but I'm climbing up on these trains and everything, and I'm in a Slave Leia costume. And I wasn't as smart then as I am now. So I was wearing very tiny underwear and no nylons. So no stockings or leggings underneath it. So it was a bit breezy. And I'm climbing up on these things. I'm hiking my leg up. I'm, jumping off trains, jumping on trains. I was so ridiculous, that I wouldn't think of something like that to actually cover up. And these are people that I had never met before. And I'm thinking, oh no, I'm gonna flash like this 12-year-old that's in our group, and then his dad is gonna hate me. So I'm really glad that didn't happen, James. James is Orlando in our group, and if you're watching this, I'm really glad that didn't happen. I know now that Kansas, our photographer, would not have let me flash anyone, but I just remember constantly thinking, oh god, I hope I don't fall and, like, my skirt flies over my head, or I hope that a brisk wind doesn't come by and I'm just showing everybody. So luckily, that's not the case now. I wear nylons, I wear pantaloons, so sorry guys, you won't ever get a show from me.
As of me, I was really, really nervous when we had to teach a class at a school.
Oh yeah, it was High Tech High. It was actually this Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, it was this last Tuesday.
I was so nervous that I was putting eyelets and gauntlets. I was teaching them how to do that, and I was so nervous that I kind of forgot how to put them in. So,
and we put so many into your pants too.
I don't know what happened, and then so I got it, and I was hammering them in, and then I would pick it up to show them, and it wasn't hammered right. It was just, they weren't in right, and I had no idea what I did, but I was in front of a bunch of students my age, and it was so embarrassing.
Well, I'm sure you'll get better with time. The public speaking thing always is kind of freaky. I know that it startled me a lot when I got started with this, but now it really comes easily. And someone's like, oh, can you talk for 45 minutes? I'm like, really? That's it? I can sit here and yammer your ear off for hours. You probably don't want me to do that, but I could. So, well, I think that's going to wrap up our show here. Thank you guys so much for joining us for our first episode of 2016.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, I hope you guys all had a very happy New Year and good holidays, and I hope 2016 is treating you guys right so far. It's going to be a new year, new opportunities, new friends. So hopefully I'll see you guys sometime this year at an event or convention soon. Our next event as a group is going to be the Cosplayers in San Diego. That is going to be January 23rd and 24th. And I will not be there. I have another engagement. But the Star Wars Steampunk Universe crew will be there. They will have a panel and a booth, so definitely go check them out. And I believe that we're going to be attending the Dickens Festival in February, so that should be pretty exciting. They're really inviting more steampunks into their event to kind of branch out and include all forms of Victorian appreciation. So we're also, really hoping that we can go to the Disney 5K, or is it a half marathon? We're really hoping we can go to that event. We were invited, but we're still waiting on confirmation for that. So hopefully we'll be able to cheer on those runners as the Star Wars Steampunk Universe crew. So see you guys soon. We'll have another episode next week. So I'll see you then.